Hello everybody, Adam here, and before we get into today's episode, just a quick shout out to Dungeon Major, our sister podcast. The entirety of Season 1, all 10 episodes of homebrewed fantasy Genesis silliness, is now available for your listening pleasure. So if you have some space in your listening queue and want to have even more of my voice, and the voices of most of the cast, head yourself over to Dungeon Major. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts at the moment. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, all the usual places. Or you can follow the link in the show note to the Libsyn website that hosts it and click on one of the various subscribe links there. We hope you enjoy it. We had an awful lot of fun doing it. And Season 2 is in the process of being written at the moment and will be appearing at some point in the future when I've got it written and I can get everyone back around the virtual table to record it. Right, that's enough from me. I will let you get back into it. You know how it goes. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. You're listening to Force Majeure, an actual play Star Wars podcast. My name is Adam and I'm your host, and today's episode will be brought to you after these words from our sponsors.
It was a time of great upheaval in the galaxy. Empires will rise. Dynasties will fall. One man will stand against the tide. A hero. A beacon. Against the darkness.
Are you ready, kids?
Captain Codfish is hungry for justice. Coming soon to a holovid near you. Are you ready, kids?
Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 12? Episode 12 of the Coldfire Chronicles. My name is Adam and I am the GM for this adventure, and I am joined around the table by...
Hi, I'm Mikey. I play Jiren. He's a Chiss Mystic Advisor. His emotional strength is his enthusiasm, and his emotional weakness is his extreme recklessness.
Hi, I'm Ross. I play Agatha, a Morailan warrior aggressor colossus, whose emotional strength is his pride, and whose weakness is his obsession.
Hi, I'm Ed Fortune. I play the character of Oberon Drick. He is a human hunter-seeker. His emotional strength is justice. His emotional weakness is cruelty.
Hi, I'm Mim. I play Lassa. She's a human sentinel artisan. Her emotional strength is her curiosity, and her emotional weakness is obsession.
And before we get going with today's episode, for today's question, we are once again going to gently flashback to that sauna on Port Haven before everything went so terribly wrong. Once again, relaxing music continues to be piped in. There is the occasional hiss of water on the electrically heated coals, bringing a little bit of rehydration into this relaxing atmosphere. Our heroes are sat around the benches, occasionally looking over at Lassa's data slate, when Prinkle, who is sat back, his eyes closed, his fur plastered to him, the lime green Borat mankini he's wearing leaving very little to the imagination. And without opening his eyes, he just says,
My friends, I was wondering, when all this is done and we are away from here and Lassa has had her vengeance and we have rescued our friend Pyjack from the nefarious grips of the dreaded Inquisitor 10th Brother, and the dreaded Inquisitor 10th Brother has been appropriately chastised for his cruel badness. We're all still going to be friends after this, aren't we? We're not just going to scatter into the galaxy like dust motes. We're still going to to see each other, right?
Agatha does not want to scatter.
Jiren leans back, similarly wearing a lime green mankini in a budgie smuggler type way. My friend, and I say that with complete honesty, my friend, I could not imagine the universe without you in it at close proximity to me. We are a crew. We do not have a ship right at the moment. We do not have stability, but we will get it, and you will still be my friend. And he turns to Lasser. You will still be my friend. And he turns to Oberon. You will still be my friend. And he turns to Agatha and he says, and you will still be my friend. If you want to go, if you want to leave, that's fine. It's a big universe, but friendship is stronger than distance, you know?
Oberon gives Prinkle a very kind of somber look and just puts down the cigar, picks up the fizzing green drink and goes, "You're the only family I have left." And at which point downs the entire drink in like one motion. And for that I'm thankful.
Jiren also downs the drink and says, right, I know we've got something very important to do tomorrow, but I think we need to get shots.
Agatha, while looking over at Lasser slightly concernedly, says, I enjoy being among you all, and I have very much enjoyed escaping prison with you. Let us see what we do next.
Lasser has been listening and sipping her drink and poking her data slate with mild discomfort.
Jiren, being somebody who notices this sort of things, leans forward, puts his hand gently on Lasser's elbow, just in a friendly way, and says, I think we need to focus, Prinkle, on what's going to happen tomorrow. We're a family right now. That's the important thing, okay?
Okay. I still get to wear my little chauffeur's hat though, yes?
I like the fact that you're wearing it now. It shows commitment.
I'm just glad it's very waterproof.
And we leave the sauna. Port Haven is burning. As the Rilco's Twitch leaves the Oracle Collective warehouse and starts to head up towards the atmosphere, the Imperial Star Destroyer Willbreaker unleashes flight after flight of TIE fighters to strafe the shadow port beneath it. There is panic in the streets and panic in the skies as pirates, smugglers, vacationing fringers and other denizens of the shadow port attempt to flee as best they can from the mailed boot of the Empire slamming down on what was once a peaceful and beautiful escape. The clouds of burning buildings are thick. All is chaos. And into that chaos, the Rilco's Twitch. At this moment in time, it seems the Star Destroyer has not yet managed to identify properly its target. But that can only be a matter of time, as you realise that the TIE fighters, where they're intercepting fleeing ships, are using ion blasts rather than their turbo lasers. A small mercy, but one that will not last long when the stormtroopers land. And indeed you can see from the Willbreaker a number of shuttles and dropships starting to descend down towards the streets of Port Haven, with ATST walkers and troop carriers poised and ready to be deployed. Players, I'm starting a countdown. You have until the countdown ticks over to escape, or else you will be captured by the might of the Empire, brought here by Oberon's family.
Can I ask how many segments we have on the clock?
No.
Okay.
I would for the heist, but for the sake of dramatic tension, no. What I will tell you is each time the clock ticks, the situation will get worse for you all. Now, the proper vehicle combat rules for this game are not particularly user-friendly, especially in a party like this where we're lacking a Kay and a Roy. So rather than resort to that, I'm going to keep in almost the heist-esque narrative structure. and I will be throwing open to you each round to tell me what it is that you want to do as you're seeking to escape here. That will hopefully give you a chance to start flexing some of your actual skills rather than being tied down and pigeonholed. But we will start off as the Twitch is pulling away. At this point, as I say, the TIE fighters are being relatively indiscriminate, and thanks to the smoke pouring out of the Orkol Collective building, the ascent of the Twitch does not appear to have drawn any more or less notice. There are currently no TIE fighters zeroing in directly on you at this moment in time. And our camera pans into the Rilko's Twitch to see the crew. Players.
Okay, we do not want to die. Let's find a way out of this.
I love the fact you're the ideas man.
Oberon's in the pilot seat. His lovely, lovely suit is not as lovely as it once was. The cuffs are covered in his own blood at this point, and as are the controls at this point. Adam?
Yes.
As I'm pulling away, I would like to not shoot the fuel dump, which is the first thing, like that twitch of cruelty, and instead I will aim the cannon at the cooling systems. The plan is to cause, with the cooling systems down, the building will flood with gas to prevent any further damage, which will cause a lot of damage, but won't cause a loss of life because the alarms will go off.
Yep, that can be your action for this round then, as you're starting to pull away. So if you will make me a gunnery roll, the difficulty is it's 1 purple because you're at close planetary range. I'm going to throw in 2 setback die to that, however, because of the smoke and trying to pinpoint the target.
That is literally 2 success.
The coolant system erupts as your lasers slam into it, and you can hear and see it start to deploy inside the building. You know, the amount of smoke that's coming out starts to cool down. Okay, who's next to take a turn?
I'd like to get to a gunnery position. I'm assuming the layout of the ship is sufficiently straightforward that getting to a gunnery position is going to be good, even though Agatha's not great on ships and is going to have to still work out which one of these is the on switch and which one's the trigger. And don't get those mixed up at the wrong moment.
Yeah, you can make your way up and settle yourself in the gunnery turret.
Okay. I will shout out if anybody has any preferable targets at this point, but...
Is there anything else you would like to do as part of this moment?
It's pretty straightforward aim of, I'm pretty sure guns might be useful at this point, and other than securing anything that we've just thrown on board the ship at the last second, I think basically being ready at a gun station is the important thing.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Lasser, Duran, Prinkle, so you're aware, because he kind of launched the bags with all your stuff in from the back of the limo as you got into the Twitch and flew away. He is securing that stuff down in the cargo bay and keeping himself occupied in a productive fashion.
As we came in, Duran picks up his coat from the bags that Prinkle had. Putting it on, he goes and slumps himself in the pilot seat, remembering for a second that he should buckle up Buddy and clipping himself in.
Clunk click every trip.
Exactly. It's a very famous song, it is. He was told it when he was a kid.
I never got paid at the Royal League.
The comms marks on and you hear across the back of the ship,
Lasser, if you have anything, use it. We need to get out of here.
Adam, looking out the cockpit, is there quite a lot of fleeing ships?
There are some fleeing ships. There are some that are kind of just taken to the air. There are some that are a bit higher up than you in the atmosphere. There's an awful lot of speeders that are making their way to the docks and the landing pads.
Can I do a Computers-y type roll to kind of get a bead on some of these ships? So basically so I know who they are and where they are.
Yeah, computers or perception, I think I would allow either of those ones, as you're kind of pinpointing where things are to avoid and...
Well, Jiren kind of thinks that it might be good for them if they follow a pack in the same way that if you're trying to run to the end zone, you'll get a blocker, trying to get a bigger ship in front of them for them to escape with. So I'm just trying to get a bead on what's around.
Computers, perception or astrogation, because the Navicomp will also plot a bit of that in there as well.
Okay.
The difficulty, no matter what you choose, is going to be 2. I'm going to flip a dark side point, so it's 1 red, 1 purple, and I'm putting on a setback for the chaos.
Okie doke. Oh, Even though it wasn't a great roll, I had 3 green, 1 red, 1 purple and a black. That's 1 success and 2 crab vantage.
Okay, so yeah, you managed to pick out a group that are starting to flee, a group of 3 ships that are clearly part of another collective. They are skip-ray blast boats that are all moving off in one big group at the moment, and you can try to get into their wake or direct Oberon to get into their wake.
All I'm going to do is point them out to Oberon and let him decide what he needs to do, because he's the pilot. He needs to decide what he feels he's safe to do. But I'm going to make sure Oberon's aware of them in case he wants to use them as as shields, essentially.
Okay. What would you like for your advantage? Would you like boost? Would you like to introduce something to the scene?
I mean, I've got a suggestion on this. I think possibly being the only ship that's just fired on a target, specifically one that the Brick family were interested in, we might have made as a target. If it turns out lots of other people in the area might have thought, you know what, the Empire might leave some of us alive, but if I can take advantage of this to knock over the opponent's business or something, so that there's more fire going on against the infrastructure, so we're less highlighted.
Rather than encouraging chaos, I want to use those advantages to potentially make it less obvious that we have started using our guns.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I will factor that in when the clock ticks up 1 then. So yeah, because you were covered by the smoke and underneath, the guns may possibly have been fired, but the cloud cover was such that it's not obvious that it was yourselves. And Mim.
Alright, now Lassa has been quite unnerved by the fact that there's a large Star Destroyer turned up. She's well aware of the capacity of these ships for destruction and the limited capacity of all other ships against them, because she understands the mechanics of it. She's gone a little bit pale. You can see her clutching her bag and running to the engine room screaming, "I've got an idea, but you're going to need to absolutely do what I tell you on my mark. Give me as much time as you can, and then be prepared to trust me, alright?"
We trust you.
Anything you need, Lasser. I'll buy us time.
Alright. Dren, I might need the artifact.
It's in the bag.
Alright, she grabs that too.
Do what you need to do. We trust you, Lasser.
Lasser runs into the engine room, and as well as the fusion drives which are powering the engines of Rilko's Twist, there is the hyperdrive that is connected in there as well. It's quite an old hyperdrive. It's not the fastest hyperdrive, and it looks like it's not the original one the ship came with. It has at some point been replaced, whether that's through damage or through an upgrade or just through natural attrition, because this is quite an old ship, as part of the ongoing theme of Coldfire Chronicles of you guys having really old knackered ships. This has clearly had some hard use in its time.
Alright. Once Lassa gets to the engine room, you see her fling down 2 bags. One's got the orb in it, and the other is her personal backpack. And she takes out of it a Frankenstein's monster of a hyperdrive. You can see that it's got key components that one would need for a hyperdrive, but it's also got parts that don't look like they would normally fit into anything. It's got multiple sections because she never knew what she was going to attach it to. So it's had some parts put on the off chance that they'll be needed. And as she's turning it over in her hand, you can see that even she's a little unsure about what she's about to do. This has been something she's worked on for a long time and poured herself into, but she's slightly mistrustful of it because she realises that perhaps she wasn't just building it because she likes to tinker, that perhaps something inside her was guiding her a little bit. And there's a big sigh as she gets ready to try and adapt this into the existing hyperdrive.
I think I would like from you, as you start this process, a mechanics test. It is going to be, as a base, 3 purple. I'm adding a setback because of the stress of the situation that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
At this stage, I'm not flipping a dark side point.
Alright. Because of Inventor, which is an artisan talent, when constructing new items or modifying existing attachments, I can add a boost or remove a setback die per rank of Inventor.
Yeah, I will allow that to apply in this circumstance. It's not 100% on all fours with the talent, but it fits the narrative. So yep, you can use that to either drop that setback or add yourself a boost instead.
I think I'll drop the setback if that's alright, because they tend to do me more harm than anything else. I'm more likely to roll a blank.
Yes.
Okay, let me just check if I've got anything else that could possibly help me with this.
We have the option of flipping a light side point for you. I'm not saying we should, I'm saying we have the option.
I'm going to say, at the moment, 2 yellows and a green versus 3 purple. That's pretty good odds. And I've got my force dice as well. And she is absolutely going to have a bit of a mental feel around. You could almost hear her talking to herself going, all right, if this is real, and if this is really what happens, you would better be on my side. So, dice rolling. Oh yeah! For the first time in a long time, there is a triumph in this dice roll.
Whoop whoop.
It's pretty wonderful. I didn't even know my dice had triumphs. So that is a successful triumph and a threat, with 1 dark side point, which I'm not going to pull on, because even though she's panicked, she's focused on the mechanics.
What would you like your triumph to be?
I'm torn between giving us more time, but I understand that is what you 3 guys are all focused on, giving us more time. So I don't know, do you want me to do this super quick, but then who knows what else has happened? Or should I keep it for making sure I've got a better roll when I try and make this thing function as I desire?
I think pump it all back into your own dice rolls is my thought at the minute.
Yeah, focus on your dice rolls.
Okay, so I'm going to take that triumph and push it forward so that the rest of my dice rolls are better.
Okay. The threat is this. As you're connecting all this up, you're still moving very quickly as you're doing this. You're guided almost by the force as you're doing it. It's almost muscle memory as you're starting to bolt bits on from your special project and unconnect things. There is, however, a power surge as part of this, and that causes the Navi computer by Jiren to suddenly start throwing out sparks and smoking, and that's the threat.
Okay.
The clock ticks. As you're starting to make your way towards atmosphere, you have drawn the attention of a pair of TIE fighters who are zeroing in on you. At this moment in time, you have not joined the pack of skip rays. You're still kind of making your way away from the compound on Port Haven, and there are 2 TIEs on your tail.
Well, I'd like to ask, is this something that's visible only from the cockpit, or is this also visible from my turret position?
It's visible from your turret position as well. Who wants to go next?
I would like to go, and I'll tell you why, because we're getting black dice because of the stress of the situation. I would like to remove those black dice by rolling leadership to calm everybody down, so everybody else's rolls are a little bit easier. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to move my chair away from the Navi computer so I don't get fried a little bit, lean over to the comms, and across the ship just say to everybody, I know this seems bad, but we have been in more perilous situations than this and come through it all. I trust every single one of you. We can get through this. We can escape. We are a team. Okay? Let's do this. And I would like to roll a leadership.
Its difficulty is 2 purple dice. I'm putting the setback in there for the moment because it hasn't yet been counteracted from the stress.
That makes perfect sense. Let's do a roll.
Oh yeah!
Ooh, that's interesting. So that's a success and an advantage and a triumph and 2 light side and a dark side. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep that success and that triumph. The 2 light side are going to go towards advantages. We'll work out the triumph in a second. But, Adam, the leadership rules are a little bit on the vague side, but because you kept describing the setbacks as the stress of the situation, I would like to, for at least for a round, kind of quell all of those setbacks while people realise that they were a team and we can do this.
What I will say is, the success and the 3 advantage effectively mean that your leadership and your calm will apply to the entire crew and cancel setbacks caused by the stress of the situation until things take a really negative turn, as in a load of threats get rolled, or I flip a dark side point, or a despair pops up, or something like that, which will leave you your triumph to do something cool with. How do you feel about that?
That sounds good to me. I would like... Jiren is famously bad with computers and engineering and anything technical. What he has in fact done is broadcasted to the local ships. Not to this ship, but to the local ships. And the local piratey type, frigatey type people have seen in this that our ship is one that should be leading this escape. And therefore, some of the ships that are closer by kind of clock in and come in line with us. Basically, we are now the front of an escape plan for however many ships that can hear us, or any ships in the area that can hear us.
Awesome. Yeah, I really like that. That's cool.
Duran still does not know he's broadcasting to everybody, including the TIE fighters.
They're going to be bloody surprised when we just pop and vanish, aren't they?
Not my problem.
You cold-hearted bastard.
It's not my problem because I don't understand I've done it.
Who wants to take next?
So Oberon looks at the comms, looks at Duran, smiles for the first time that you've seen him smile for a while, smiles, presses a button on the comms to narrow the comms to the group that we're joining.
Yeah.
And I'd like to do two things. Firstly, I send a comm to the Skip Rear Gunboat group saying, "On your 6, I'll run interference."
Okay.
And then, essentially, join the group, but join the group in such a way that the Skip River gunboats are between us and the ties. So it looks like I'm trying to lead them away. But what I'm actually doing is I'm trying to use the Skip River gunboats as cover, and I'm going to scatter fire. So I'm not trying to hit anything. I'm just going to blast the guns to make it look like I'm defending myself.
Okay, so what you want from the outcome you want from this then is effectively to make it much more difficult for the ties to target and blast you because of the amount of chaos on your side that's going on through using the skip rays as a stalking horse, through suppressing fire, that sort of stuff with your guns. Okay.
I'm essentially trying to cover the skip rear gunboat, but I'm completely aware that by covering the skip rear gunboat, I've essentially engaged them with the ties.
Yeah, okay. I would like a gunnery check, I think, from you for this. The difficulty is going to be 1 red, 1 purple, but I'm going to give you 2 boost die because the skip rays are working with you on this as well. Especially with Jaren's assurances, they do recognise that you are currently their best chance of getting out of here alive, and so are assisting in... They've not realised the truth of their role in your plan, and so are working with you willingly.
It's kind of like a deception roll with the guns, isn't it?
Yeah, effectively.
Yeah, you're against their willpower almost.
Mm.
So that's 1 crab vantage,
yeah,
3 successes, and a triumph.
Nice.
We are doing all right.
After the heist going so sideways, clearly the escape is working for you. I'm going to have to up my game.
Oh, don't worry. I have yet to roll.
Alright, so what does that look like, Ed? What do you want from this? Do you want to have taken out one of the TIE fighters with your triumph as it is?
Yeah, I think what happens is I swoop and run interference, and because the ties are so fast, they've already moved in to engage where we are. So I've kind of tumbled the ship round, so the guns are all pointing forward, and I've targeted. There's a little song that he's singing to himself, and you can just hear him sing, "It's not nice to do." Fires.
I love the fact that Roy has this interdimensional power. Those songs are all over the place now.
So, "It's not nice to do," flips over the ship, fires, hits the tie, and then gets into the right direction. So now I'm kind of in the pack.
Yeah.
But I've definitely engaged everyone with the ties.
Okay, and one of the ties goes spiralling down, fire smashes into the jungle outside Port Haven. There's 1 tie left, and you still have your advantages.
I'll spend the advantage on a boost to the gunner because we're in the right position.
Okay. Ross, then, do you want to take the next position and we'll keep Mim's tension for the end?
Yeah, I'd like to aim and fire at the remaining TIE fighter.
Okay, it's 2 purple is your difficulty. You have the boost die. There are no setback die thanks to Jaren's leadership and Oberon having drawn it out.
Okay, I mean, Agatha just has 3 green of his own to roll at this, so I'm not going to add anything to that. I think the odds are presently in my favour. 2 success, but 1 threat.
The TIE fighter is still just about flying. Just about. There is smoke streaming from its panels, however. What it does do, though, is peel off from the pack at the moment, breaks engagement and peels away.
I mean, from Agatha's point of view, that's a success.
Yep, The threat is going to be banked for this moment in time, however. Effectively, the threat is the tie has peeled off and gone. There is active resistance over here. So it peels off to alert some friends. Mim.
Okay, so now I've got the prototype hyperdrive preliminarily fitted, if that's a word, or vaguely fitted. I'm going to attempt to add the orb into it somehow, so that it and me are somewhat connected to this hyperdrive.
Okay.
You're a conduit. You can just hold the orb.
Yeah, I could.
Stick your finger straight in the live.
It feels more like I need to be not quite wired in, but for this to work, it has to work by her way of seeing things, and that means it shouldn't just work if I just hold it and go, oh, I wish I had a star. No, there's got to be some kind of wiring or something that makes her think this is more mechanics than woo, because you know what she's like with woo.
Put it right next to a one of those little ports and just hammer it until it fits.
Okay, so this is quite complicated to wire in this esoteric artifact. So your base difficulty is 1 red and 3 purple. I'm spending a dark side point, so your 2 red, 2 purple is your difficulty. There are no setback die, however, thanks to the power of friendship. So you have your triumph, which gives you a free upgrade to your roll, and there are 5 light side points in the pool.
I'm going to use one of those light side points to change my remaining green into a yellow.
Okay. Are you drawing upon the orb as part of this, or is that going to be the plan for next time round?
I'm not wasting what's left of the orb's power, because she's well aware that it is a limited resource.
Okay.
There's all sorts of sparks and random wires being pulled over the place as you see her trying to form this makeshift holding machine for it that she could just clunk, click, plug in to everything. Staring at the orb going, you're going to do what I want you to do. If you don't do what I want you to do, I swear I'm going to space you. Absolutely. If you kill me, I am taking you with me. Bang, bang, bang. Don't break.
Lasse, you're on comms. Can you stop saying that to everybody?
So ultimately that is 2 success, 2 advantage, 1 despair, but 4 light side points.
Those light side points can be used for successes or advantages. They cannot be used to cancel out the despair.
If I take them as advantages, then they might be at least of benefit to us in future.
What I would say is, your clock you need to tick up is a success clock, not an advantage clock. So burning them for successes means you get this installed and working quicker.
Okay. Captain Speedy! Let's take that despair and work as fast as my wrinkly little fingers can manage. Actually, no, that sounds rude. Cancel that bit about the wrinkly fingers. Let's just get this installed as quickly as I can, and this might destroy the orb and me by using it, but let's do this. So I'm going to spend the light side points to up my successes.
Okay. So what does that put you on in total for successes?
Yes, 6. 4 light side points if each one is 1 success. But let's not forget that wonderful despair hanging over me. I knew I shouldn't have rolled a triumph.
So would you like to tell me what you want to use as advantage for, and I will tell you what the despair is for?
Can I use it to avoid something that I haven't accidentally drained the orb?
Well, you haven't yet used the orb to power it, actually, because that was all your light side points that you rolled. That was all your force die, because you're force rating 2. So you haven't yet used the orb as part of this. Unless what you're saying is that you want to make sure that when it's rigged that it won't drain the orb entirely when you blast it.
No, just to make sure that the despair can't affect the orb, basically.
The despair is not going to be affecting the orb. Let me qualify. This despair is not going to be affecting the orb.
That's fine. In that case, I haven't spent any of the advantages yet.
Is there a way to use the advantages to, because we're using force powers in its proximity, to recharge the orb?
Yeah.
Is that anything we can advantage with it?
Blooming heck, Ross. It's not a bad idea.
I'm not bad when I pay attention.
If you burn all 3 of those advantage, what I will say is that the orb is sympathetically linked to you, which means that as you're drawing upon the force installing it, you are trickle charging the orb. The orb is starting to refill in a way that is not harmful to you.
Wow, I wouldn't have minded if it had sapped a couple of years off my life, so yeah, that's
Well-
fine. Oh, there is a despair there.
If there are further despairs or threats rolled as part of this, then that situation might change a little, but at the moment you have pumped more energy into the orb to start it being refilled in a beneficial way. How does that sound?
That sounds brilliant. Can I just say, I love you.
Yeah, great call there, Ross. Great call.
Brilliant call, Ross. Yes, awesome, fantastic.
So the clock ticks up 1 by natural attrition. The despair is going to tick the clock up an extra 1. So what happens is this. As you're leading this pack of skip rays out towards the lower atmosphere of Port Haven, the city is absolute chaos. Ships are lifting off from launch pads and basically jetting out, trying to make a break for things. Part of the jungle is on fire. There are speeders slamming into buildings and smoke rising and people dying in the streets. The Imperial dropships have landed and deployed AT-ST walkers and stormtroopers to the streets, which are taking control of the streets by force. At present, they are not using stun rounds as they're suppressing Port Haven. They are going in as the full male jackboot of the Empire is stomping flat this haven of scum and villainy. The sky is starting to fill up more and more as panicked people try to get out of Port Haven. The smoke is billowing, you can hear over the radio chatter, people screaming, people praying, and then radio transmissions suddenly being cut short as ship after ship starts plummeting out of the sky. Sometimes it's TIEs, sometimes it's Havenites. The TIE that you damaged has flown away, but it is clear that they have radioed in about your wedge formation trying to flee, because 6 TIE fighters in 2 groups of 3 start to converge upon you. One of those groups is going to strafe the skip rays, another of those groups is going to strafe the Twitch. They are using ion blasters at the moment, so it could be considerably worse, and they are going to attempt to strafe you. Now, they are currently strafing from the back, where you do not have shields. If one of you wants to sacrifice your action before they can strafe you to try to redeploy your shields to the rear, I will allow one of you to do that before they get in and zap you. It will be Mechanics or Computers difficulty 3.
I am just going to say, so far, Lassa doesn't really know what's happening with the battles.
That's fine.
Is the comm system broadcasting to her as well, the people crying for help and dying?
I think it's broadcasting ship-wide.
Yeah.
Okay, so she is going to offer to boost the shields, but she's also
No, you're focusing on that.
But she's going to offer because this is getting hairy, and she's starting to get shaken by other people dying in such a pitiful way.
I flashed the co-pilot a look.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry. That's what I'm there for.
I don't know what's going on out there, but it sounds like absolute hell has broken loose. What is happening?
They're attacking the city. Everybody's trying to flee. Focus on what you're doing. We will keep us safe.
Are they shooting down the civilians too?
They are, but focus on what you're doing. We need to keep you safe.
What if I gave us some more shields? Could you help them?
I'm doing it. Focus on what you're doing.
But you're not qualified. You don't know how to get the best out of this baby.
Jiren can press a button. Jiren, please press the button.
I'm going to do a... What difficulty was it?
It's difficulty 3. It should be Mechanics, but I'll allow Computers as well because it's integrate.
They're both the same. Okie dokie. Okay, 2 successes and 1 threat.
So the success means that you do indeed manage to redeploy your shields to the back of the ship, which is where they're currently going to be strafing you, which means that they will get setbacks to blast you. The threat is going to be that after this attack has gone in, there is now enough, basically, because the Navi computer was already starting to spark.
Yeah.
The whole co-pilot station is sparking and blasting and is losing a bit of power and is going to need some TLC before you can do anything meaningful there again.
Okay. It's kind of weird because the place I'm sitting is on fire, and Jiren's being very calm. He says, "See, Lasser, I've done it. I don't know why this engineering is so difficult."
Oh my god, you are the meme of the dog sat by the table going, "It's fine. This is fine."
But I'd like to point out that the sheer amounts of deception that Jiren has, he sounds fine. He sounds like he's got it all under control.
I don't know. Do you think Lasser can really tell yet? We've known each other a while now. Adam, do I know that things are okay, or do I know that Jiren is bullying me?
I think, in fairness, no, you are reassured. Jiren is on top of this, he knows what's going on, and also you're still riding high from his inspiring speech.
All right.
So no, as far as you're concerned, Jiren is on top of this. He knows what's going on.
Adam, I would like this moment where I go, Jiren, chap,
Yep.
you're on fire.
No, the console is on fire. I am smouldering. I'm fine.
Extinguisher?
I'm not sure which button. I turned the comm off. I don't know which button that is.
I'm literally pointing at the canister.
Okay, we'll deal with that one next round.
So, the TIE fighter attack on you misses. You just about manage to manoeuvre out of the way as their ion blasts zip past you. However, they did get a significant number of, they got 5 advantages. And what it happens with that is this. One of the skip ray blast boats gets ion stunned and starts dropping like a stone out of the sky. Another of the skip ray blast boats gets ion stunned by the second squadron of TIE fighters and starts dropping like a stone out of the sky. And then they stop dropping as the tractor beams mounted on the wheel breaker catch them and start reeling them in. It looks like they've noticed your group. As the threat clock ticks up, it looks like you might be next.
They're taking survivors.
Can I go next?
You can.
Oberon, whose hands have been like on the console all the way through, and he's been 10 and 2 on the console the entire journey, and then like kind of like sneaking out to do controls, takes his hand off the console, pulls a lever, and like puts both hands up as the ship engines are stopped, so the whole thing drops. So it's literally an engine, like an engine stop, essentially full stop in the mid flow. So it looks like we ourselves have lost power, at which point he then guns it and tilts the ship to its side to reduce its profile and pegs it in the direction of the Star Destroyer. So plan is, takes his hands off the console, drops the power, the ship drops like a stone, he guns it, thing flips to one side, and it's heading towards the wheel breaker as quickly as he can. The idea is essentially to make them pause to take them off their aim.
Okay, I'm going to want a piloting test from you.
Yep.
This sounds like a complicated manoeuvre, Ed.
Yep.
So your base difficulty, I think, is going to be... I think it's got to be 4.
Sounds a bit like a crazy Ivan.
It is a crazy item.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficulty 4, and as a result of the chaos that's going on in the skies from the last threat clock ticking up, there is an upgrade to this test, so your difficulty is 1 red, 3 purple, and 2 setback die for the handling of the ship. You have 4 light side points in the bank.
I would like to spend a light side point.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
3 crab advantage, 3 phones, and a triumph.
So it's a failure with 3 advantage and a triumph.
Yes.
That's my kind of dice rolling. Well done.
What does that mean?
I think what that means is, well, you don't manage to pull the manoeuvre off, ultimately. Even though the Coldfire's Mercy was a very old ship, the upgrades that Pyjack had put into it meant that it didn't handle like a very old ship. This ship, however, does. It handles like a boot. It's like driving the Mako in Mass Effect. It is not a graceful creature. And I think that as you try to do this feat of daredevilish aeronautics, it just can't take it. And you're forced to cut the engine back in without tilting it up. So you've dropped down closer to Port Haven, but your initial plan of then tearing up towards the will breaker, making it harder for it to target you, it just hasn't worked. This ship cannot handle in the way that you need it to handle.
He mutters to himself, first it's a gull, then it's a bird, then it's a brick, and it's still a brick, it's still a brick, it's falling like a... crunch.
What would you like for your triumphant advantage?
Right, so we're plummeting down.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've completely lost the kind of the manoeuvre. So what he does instead is the triumph and the advantage. I am now at almost street level by the time it kicks in. So I'm using the actual streets themselves, which are on fire, to act as cover.
Okay. What I'm thinking with that is if we say that's your advantages,
Yeah.
you have some cover, it's going to be harder for the ties to get hold of you, it's going to be harder for the Willbreaker to target you with the tractor beam. For the Triumph, would you like to upgrade Mim's engineering test, as that temporary cut of power means that she can suddenly snap some capacitors round and in without risking being fried, effectively. It was only gone for a few seconds, but when you're operating on the bleeding edge of instinct and the Force, like Lasser is, those few seconds are vital and will upgrade her engineering roll.
Yes.
Thank you.
In my head, there's like the scene with the lights going on, and suddenly it goes off and she pulls it in.
Who's next?
Shall I try shooting despite a lack of direction at this point?
Well, the TIE fighters are directly above you.
Yeah, I might have a better shot now. Thanks, Oprah.
I mean, there's also street level things. You could take out an ATST.
There are ATSTs down here, yeah.
Agatha gets to kill something.
Well, I'm glad somebody's having a good time.
Oberon, remind me after this. I need lessons in how to use a gun.
Are you going for the ATSTs? Are you going for TIE fighters? What are you targeting the guns on?
I'm going to stick with TIE fighters on account of those are the things that are most likely to be shooting at us rather than civilians on the street.
And the turret you're in has basically like 180 dome of fire, so it's all around the ship and above you. So yeah, you can zot the TIE fighters. It's 2 difficulty. I'm going to give you a boost because they're not expecting you being underneath them.
I wasn't expecting to be underneath them. I'm rolling 3 green, 2 purple, and a boost. I have 2 success and 1 advantage.
Okay. It is not quite enough to blat a TIE fighter out of the sky. It is just not quite enough to blat a TIE fighter with the guns on the ship at the moment. But I think it's enough that it's thrown them, if you know what I mean. They weren't expecting to be shot from underneath.
It's not enough for one of them to accidentally swing to the side and in order to dodge and accidentally hit one of the others or anything.
Yeah, if you want to put your advantage into that. Do you know what? Yeah, if you spend your advantage, I will say that one of them basically does that. It gets blatted, it tries to pull away, it clips another one, and then ends up spiralling wing after wing down into Port Haven and crashes. So there's one less to have to worry about.
Agatha's killed something, and any remaining boost will go to Lasser.
There won't be any remaining boosts. I'm being a bit generous with that, but yeah, I think that will drop one of these TIE fighters out the way from one of the packs that's above you.
Okay.
Lasser.
I bought you some time.
All right, thank you so much. So I believe that this is the moment of truth then, seeing if this will turn on and function.
It's not quite fully installed. You haven't quite filled up the successful installation clock.
All right, you can hear over the comms. All right, I am nearly there. You're just going to need to give me a little bit longer, and then Oberon, Duran, when I say hit it, I'm going to need you to push the hyperdrive button, but not until I say so. Everything needs to be just right.
Jiren looks down at the co-pilot seat that's on fire with the hyperdrive button in the middle of it and says, "That's fine, don't worry."
Lasser, this thing flies like an overweight porg.
What he's saying is everything is fine. We're all fine here. How are you?
Agatha, if you can keep buying me as much time as you can, and try and make sure that they don't destroy where I am, because if I get shaken around too much and I pull the wrong wire, then this is going to take longer than we've got.
Agatha is shooting things. Agatha is enjoying shooting at things.
Oh, good. Well, I'm fantastic. I'm so happy that your day's going well.
Agatha will keep you safe. Agatha is concentrating on firing now. It's fine.
You can hear a kind of, you know those laughs people do when something isn't really funny, but there's nothing else to do. They'll either laugh or they'll cry. So it's like there's a first time for everything, I reckon.
So, the final bit of installation It's going to be a difficulty 3 mechanics test. I'm flipping a dark side point,
Of course you are.
so it's 1 red and 2 purple is your difficulty.
Alright, versus 3 yellow and 2 force dice.
And a green, because you've got the free upgrade from Oberon.
And free upgrade from Oberon. Thank you kindly, my lover.
Now, are you going to draw upon the orb now it's attached to assist you in this, or are you going to leave it as a power source external to yourself?
Even though she is slightly tempted, knowing that time is starting to trickle away, she is definitely not touching that until we're good to go. You know, it's like we're not pushing the turbo button until we are ready to go turbo, because otherwise what might happen is I've accidentally drained it and we go, right, let's go, and it goes boo 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 boo, and I'm there doing the, it's not my fault, it's not my fault.
It's my dice! They just won't stop rolling despairs!
Here we go then. Oh, you are kidding. Sorry, Diana.
Did I inadvertently hex thee by rolling 47 despairs? Oh, Mim.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
Right, what's your final score?
Well, it's lucky the purples came up as nothing, so overall that is 1, 2, 3, 4 success, 3 advantage, 3 light side points, and 1 despair.
Okay, well the despair counts as failure, so that'll knock one of your successes down, so it's 3 success.
Alright, so that leaves 3 success, 3 advantage, and 3 light side. All the 3s.
Now, those 3 successes are enough to have this successfully installed.
Alright.
But where you currently are, you are too close to the planetary surface to drop into hyperspace from here. If you want, you can burn some of those advantage to narratively let Oberon take it back up to a safe position, and then you still have the light side point advantages to do other cool stuff, or...
Yeah. If it's alright then, those advantages is going to be Lasser on the comms to Oberon saying, I need you to break atmosphere before I can do this.
Roger, Wilco.
Push it for all you got, I promise you. This will either work and we'll be fine, or it won't matter, so give it all you've got. Everyone else, hold on tight.
If you're happy, Mim, burning those light sides, I imagine you're going to burn them for advantage as well.
Yeah.
Are you happy turning those 6 advantage effectively over to me to narrate what happens after you give the command to Oberon?
Yes, but I would like to say if there is the opportunity to criff up a ship that's going after any civilians while we go out, I would like to push in that direction. Just a little bit of a vendetta there against these people who are clearly using live rounds against people who are woefully underprepared for it.
Yep. Absolutely, I will factor that in there.
Oberon looks at Jiren, looks at the emergency fuel dump lever, and goes, when I say, pull that.
Okay. He glances towards the fire extinguisher, glances towards the sparking console, the console that's on fire, shrugs, and puts his metal arm on the lever. Flames licking round, slightly melting the strap on his very lovely, famous pod racer watch that he has.
We're currently sideways, so I'd like to tilt the ship up, and I'm waiting until there's a command group of Imperial soldiers. So as one of their big transports is just dropping off, essentially monsters, I pull up and throw everything into the engines. I'm literally like pulling down warnings and like disregard, 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 pull, and I'm blowing the engine. So we just shoot up. And what I'm hoping to do is I want to kind of at least buzz the Star Destroyer.
Okay. You start burning upwards. As you go past this command shuttle that has just dropped off 2 ATST walkers and the stormtroopers, and that's pulling up, Agatha focuses the guns on it as you fly past, blows the shuttle out of the sky, dropping it onto the ATSTs that it's just deposited, and crumpling that whole section in burning wreckage.
Yeah!
The twitch burns even higher. dumping all of its fuel in one glorious, final charge out of the atmosphere of Port Haven. As you streak towards the sky, the guns, again with Agatha manning them, pot TIE fighter after TIE fighter, clearing a path for some of the other civilians and pirates and criminals and escapees to get out of Port Haven before the mailed jackboot properly stomps all resistance out here. You skirt close to the Willbreaker. You can see the shimmering lights as it's trying to lock a tractor beam on you. Just misses, just misses, just misses. You buzz across the command deck and you can see, in that moment of clarity and heightened vision, the Admiral staring out with surprise. And Oberon, you recognise that man. It's Admiral Nolan, a very close friend of your father's. And you are about to break atmosphere completely into space when a tractor beam finally locks on. Your momentum begins to slow. You feel yourself moving back. The flames lick around Jiren's metal arm. He presses the hyperspace button. There is a moment of silence. You vanish entirely. There is none of the dropping into hyperspace. There is none of that supercharged acceleration you get. Not that you should be able to drop into hyperspace when you're captured in a tractor beam. It is simply, you are there and then you are not. And that is where I'm ending the episode for today.
Yes!
Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you to my players. There we are. There we go.
Am I still alive?
I'm running the next game then, is that right?
And we will tell you exactly what has happened to our heroes and the ship they're on as Lassa's secret project finally activates next time.
3 bloody years I was carrying that around. Finally.
Force Majeure is played using the Star Wars Force and Destiny game system by Fantasy Flight Games and Lucas Books. Our intro music for this season is Unholy Night by Kevin MacLeod, and our outro music remains Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale, both used with gratitude under the Creative Commons license. If you like the show and want to interact with us, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, all of which are at Force Majeure Pod, though Twitter is probably where you're going to find us more regularly. If you enjoy what we do and want to support the show, there's 3 ways you can do that. The first is via our Patreon at patreon.com/forcemajeurepod. The second is by buying us a coffee at ko-fi.com/forcemajeurepod. And the third way is by rating and reviewing us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere where you can find us. We really like reviews. It tells us that we're telling the stories that you want to hear and helps other people find us. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.